I like what Richard Feynman says about this. Some people say, how can you live without knowing? I do not know what they mean. I always live without knowing. That is easy. How you get to know is what I want to know. You know?
It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from that. Like everyone else, you were born into bondage, born into a prison that you cannot smell or taste or touch. A prison for your mind. Unfortunately, no one can be told what it is. You have to see it for yourself.
Last Supper painting and how it's related to astrology, and how, Bible is about astrotheology. I've spoken about this before a little bit, how, if you go back into history before the biblical times, during the time of the Egyptian pharaohs, and if you study about King Horus, who eventually turned himself into the son of sun god known as Ra, or better known as Amun-Ra, kind of went through the similar life pattern as Christ did. How he began spreading the word of God, how he began performing miracles at the young age, how he had 12 disciples, how he was crucified for spreading the name of the God and his kingdom. How it's kind of related, and I'll let you be the judge of this, okay? So as you see here in this painting, this Last Supper painting, and if you carefully see how each of the disciples are combined into one group. Group 1, Group 2, Group 3, Group 4. What does that represent? Those are representing the 4 seasons. They're representing spring, summer, fall, winter. Let's look at how these 4 groups are representing the zodiac signs up in the sky. Look at the very first person there. How his hair and beard looks like wool of sheep wool. Okay? And if you look at the leg carefully of that person in the painting, looks like legs of a sheep. Okay? Second, and that represents Aries. Second, Taurus. What does Taurus represent? Represents shoulder. Look what the second person is doing in the painting. Holding the shoulder. Third, what does it represent? Gemini. What are Gemini? Gemini is 2 people, the union of male and female. Not the twins. That's another misconception. It's not the twins. It's the energy of male and female, the union. And what is this person showing? The 2 hands.
Nearly 2,000 years ago, a small group of Persian astrologers observed an unusual conjunction in the heavens. They discovered that this had been predicted by the astrologer-philosopher Zoroaster, and that it would herald the birth of a new king. The astrologers set off on a long journey, working out the time and place of the new king's birth from their astrological observations. But when they reached the spot, they found only a baby lying in a stable. The astrologers were the Magi, and the baby was Jesus. In a Macedonian palace in 356 BC, the court was expecting the new child of the king, Philip II, and Olympias, Philip's wife, had gone into labor. The astrologer pleaded with Olympias to try to delay the birth as long as possible. If she could do so, her child would have an extraordinary horoscope and would become one of the greatest leaders the world had ever known. Somehow, Olympias managed to do as the astrologer asked, and eventually her son was born into his epoch-making horoscope. Olympias had given birth to Alexander the Great. The fortunes of astrology waxed and waned during the Middle Ages. But by the 16th century, astrology in Europe had become highly refined, well regarded, and an essential qualification for any educated person. Astrology was a mainstream academic subject taught in universities alongside mathematics, medicine, and astronomy, and was used by doctors, scientists, and high-ranking intellectuals. Dee's work included acting as a spy for Elizabeth. But astrology, not foreign intelligence, was the cornerstone of his instructions to his queen. He chose propitious dates for all important events. One of his greatest successes came in 1588, when he advised Elizabeth on the timing of England's victorious confrontation with the Armada, the invading naval force of Spain.
Elon Musk had tweeted out, "Why is there no flat Mars society?"
The green line shows the path of the laser and the view from the telescope. And the gold line shows how the data points form the beginning of a curve.
I hope they're not imaginary. By the way, I know this is, you asked about this a million times, but I'm particularly interested in it. You went on a podcast and you said the Earth, you believe the Earth was flat. Do you actually, do you want to reel that in, or you still believe the Earth is flat?
You know what, you've always tried to come back, take the statement back, but
yeah, but
on that podcast, I was just really like, man, what's going on within our world? And just a whole bunch of truth and conspiracy. I was just like, whoa, this is too much for me. And then I come out and say that, and then, whoo, the reaction it got.
Yeah, because people think maybe your brain collapsed or something like that.
It didn't.
It didn't.
No, I'm actually intellectually stable.
Well, I did give you, because you seem like a pretty bright guy, so I gave you this, and maybe like you can, at work, you can look at this. This is a gift for you. That's one of a kind there. And you can just ponder the potential realities of the world and its possible roundness.
Yeah, spinning. It's spinning. It's just spinning.
Written in Latin. As Dante was interested in religion and the consequences of our actions here on earth, the Divine Comedy tells the tale of Dante trying to aspire to heaven, but he must travel through hell and purgatory to get there. Most of what he writes is based on imagery found in popular religious texts, including the Bible, though some of it was embellished for the sake of storytelling. Inferno is likely the most popular of the three sections, and it's with Inferno that we'll begin. With the help of a guide named Virgil, Dante must navigate the depths of hell in order to make his way through the earth to the other side, then climb a mountain in the story of Purgatorio, and then make it to heaven, or Paradiso, with his love Beatrice, which most scholars agree is based on his real-life love, but is presented here as more a general and vague feeling of love that we all yearn for. Some even argue that Beatrice stands as a substitute for faith or theology as well.
It's based on the story. Which one? This one here. It's based on the story of hospitality of Abraham. Yes, that's right. Yes. But that particular treatment is just absolutely amazing, because it gives the whole teaching of what's called the economy of God. Basically the whole Bible. This represents what's called the pre-eternal council of the Holy Trinity. Okay. A discussion about, as it were, within the Godhead, of before creation, of creating man and believe to accept, for the simple fear, the Son of God, to accept the cup, which is the middle. And if you have a look at the figures, the side figures are actually engulfing the simple figure. As Paul writes to the Romans, it's death and resurrection with Christ. Okay, so you've got to drown, die, and connect with his life. Now, talking about hell, St. Peter in his first letter writes that when Christ went down into Hades, he preached to the souls of the first world, the antediluvian world. You have that opening above where about the figure of Christ. So that's the descent of the Holy Spirit.
That's
right?
right. Yeah.
And then you have that image above that.
Yeah.
That's that image of something emerging from outside of space and time.
Yes, that's right. It relates to the transcendence of God. Okay.
What's interesting also about the book of Enoch is the cosmology and the creation account, specifically with the stars, the sun, and the moon, as luminaries as they're described in the book of Enoch. Jesus himself referred to the book of Enoch to the Sadducees, confirming its validity in Matthew 22:30, Enoch 15:6-7. When talking about the angels in heaven, this was a book they would be familiar with. The book of Enoch goes into great, very minute detail of the heavenly luminaries, including the sun, moon, and stars, chapters 72-82. Enoch tells us plainly that the stars and wandering stars, planets, are a form of angelic beings, living stones of fire, as described also in the Bible. He tells us that 7 of them disobeyed God and left their prescribed course. These are the wandering stars. For this they are punished. Jude 1:13, 1 Enoch 18:12-16, and 24. The ancients knew these were wandering stars. It's interesting that the book of Enoch explains that the wandering stars have transgressed God's laws and will be punished.
I've created a computer animation that shows the rotations of the sun, moon, and stars over the course of an entire year. So as you can see in this animation, we have the 12 constellations of the zodiac spinning around, and each spin of the zodiac wheel represents one stellar day, which takes roughly 23 hours and 56 minutes. Okay, so a sidereal day or a stellar day is roughly 4 minutes faster than a solar day. And this causes the stars to gain 1 degree every 24 hours. So in a 24-hour period, the stars rotate 361 degrees. It gains 1 degree a day on the sun. Now on top of the zodiac wheel, I've also placed the sun and the moon. The sun takes a true 24 hours to complete one circle, one full day. And the moon is a little bit slower than both. The moon takes 24 hours and 50 minutes to complete one full circle. So we have the sun losing roughly 1 degree a day on the stars, and we have the moon losing roughly 12 degrees a day on the sun. And these slight variations of the solar, stellar, and lunar days is what gives us the phases of the moon, and it's what makes astrology possible. If the sun, moon, and stars all rotated around in a true 24-hour day, there would be no astrology because there would be no change in the relative positions of these luminaries. And because the sun loses 1 degree a day on the stars, after 30 days, the sun will lose 30 degrees, which causes it to fall back into a new sign. So the first sign is Aries, which begins on March 21st, the vernal equinox. And the first sign begins on March 21st because the real first day of the new year is actually March 21st. The new year should begin in the spring. The first sign, Aries, begins on March 21st because March 21st is the actual first day of the new year, the vernal equinox. So 3 months later, the stars will have gained 90 degrees on the sun, and now the sun will be in the sign of Cancer. And this is also the time of the year when the sun is circling over the Tropic of Cancer, which I didn't depict in this model because I don't have the capabilities, but during the summer solstice, during that 30-day period, the sun is circling over the Tropic of Cancer. And during the winter solstice, during the sign of Capricorn, the sun is circling over the Tropic of Capricorn. So that's not a coincidence. The two tropics represent the lines of latitude the sun spirals between.
It's unknown where exactly Tiangong-1 will fall back to Earth, but given the spacecraft's inclination, it will re-enter somewhere between 43 degrees north and 43 degrees south latitudes. Owing to the Chinese station's mass and construction materials, there is a distinct possibility that some portions of the Tiangong-1 will survive the fiery journey through Earth's atmosphere and reach the surface experts say.
The rogue Chinese space station Tiangong-1 made its much-anticipated re-entry into Earth's atmosphere overnight. The 18,000-pound prototype met a fiery end after breaking apart and burning up, scattering its pieces over a remote part of the South Pacific Ocean and landing near Tahiti, according to officials. Radar images taken before re-entry showed the station tumbling in its orbit. The space station was being tracked by teams in the U.S., Europe, and China because of uncertainty where it would fall.
And behold, that abyss, I saw a place which had no firmament of the heaven above, and no firmly founded earth beneath it. There was no water upon it, and no birds, but it was a waste and horrible place. I saw there 7 stars, like great burning mountains, and to me, when I inquired regarding them, the angel said, "This place is the end of heaven and earth. This has become a prison for the stars and the host of heaven, and the stars which roll over the fire, as they which have transgressed the commandments of the Lord in the beginning of their rising, because they did not come forth at their appointed times. And he was wroth with them, and bound them till their time, when their guilt should be consummated, even for 10,000 years."